So you see, I'm on the TypeScript playground, and we are just going to start with a very, very simple one. So I'm just going to say, let's have a class. Let's have a user class. Okay. And in a class, so this is like a boss, right? We could have, let's say a user has a first name and is of type string. You see, we have an error there already. Let's say we have a last name of type string. Let's say we have an age of type number. And if we hover over it, see what it's saying. It says property first name has no initializer, and it is not definitely assigned in the constructor. So we'll get to that. So this user class is going to help us boss everything we want to do about a user. Okay, it's just going to be like a boss around for, it's going to be like a boss for everything we really want to do about a user. So that's what it is. And what it's complaining about is that we just cannot have these properties on a class and they are not initialized. So we have to initialize them, right? So you can actually do that, right? But this will defeat most of the purpose of a class, because usually we want to have a class as a blueprint. Okay, so we can create several users from it, we can manipulate several users from it. So what we want to do is, usually we want to bring in a constructor. So what that is this is the first function that we run when we instantiate the class. So let's say we create a new object from that class, we want to instantiate this, right? And one thing I can do is I can now say, let's say F for first name. I'm not going to do this bad naming. I'm just going to, let's start with this. Let's start with this. Okay. Then I'm just going to say L or last name, and this is a string. And then I'm just going to say age, type number. So the way it is that it's just going to be like a, this is like a function we are going to call. So these are signatures. So we are passing in variables. And what we can do is we can now instantiate these properties we have in the class, these members, these class members. So we call them properties. So what we can do is to access the properties in the class, we use the this keyword, right, in the object. So we can say this dot first name would be whatever the user passing, and you see the error goes away from the first name. This dot last name would be whatever the user passing, and then this dot age will be whatever the user passing. Okay, but I'm not going to do this, so I'm just going to can I rename on the playground? Yeah, that's a function f2. I'm just going to rename this. I like to be very explicit. I have a typo there. Just going to rename this. It doesn't have to. I just wanted to show you that the constructor doesn't have to match with the member. That's why I did that. Okay, now we are fine now. So what does this mean? We have a boss for our user, and now we can create a new object for this. Okay, see, this pattern of actually initializing variables and then assigning values to them is so common in TypeScript that we even have a shortcut. We can do that. So what we are going to be talking about next is the access modifiers. Okay, the access modifiers or the view modifiers. So how do we define these properties? So by default, these properties, they are all public properties. They are all public. You can access them from subclasses. You can access them from outside the classes. You just get to see, you get to see those in action. Okay. Oh, well, my type is bad. So if I want to create, let's say, a first user, let's say Kelvin, I can say that's going to be a new user, and then see, it wants me to pass in the first name. It's weird. User one. I'm just going to say this is user one. This is Kelvin. You should know my surname by now. Very strong name. Now that my fresh 18. Good. Now, what is this? We have a user object, and there are so many things we can do to we first thing we want to console this user one. Let me just switch to the log so we can run this. Good. Now you see it gives us a user object. All right. What can I do now? I can actually start accessing the properties in that class. So I can do user one to see how I have this beautiful autocomplete. And if I run this, see, it gives me Kelvin. Beautiful. So like I said, this is a common pattern in TypeScript in such a way that we can actually just take this off And what we can do is we can start being very explicit about the access modifiers or the view modifiers that we want to give to this class. So we can say this is going to be a public property, and you see that error goes away. It's the same thing as initializing it and then assigning it in the constructor. We can have another one and say public. These are some of the access modifiers. I'll just teach you a few of them so we can quickly get started. Okay, we just need to do this because we are going to be heavily working on class, and yeah, it still works. In classes, we just don't have members only properties. We can have methods. Okay, so let's write one method and say this method is going to be let's say get full name. Okay, and like I said, we can access the class member. So I can just return. Then I'm going to use this string interpolation. So this dot first name. Then I'm going to have this dot last name. Okay, and this is a method in the class, and this is a public method. The fact that I can explicitly specify the access modifier as public, but if you don't, then it's going to be public by default. And what that means is that you can access it from outside the class. You can access it in subclasses. We'll see what that is. What we can do now is we can say user1.get full name, and we'll call it. And if I run this, see, it gives me the full name, right? I can access the properties. Now, there are more to this. So, for example, I have a property I don't want to expose to the outside world, right? Let me show you what I mean. So for now, I can easily get my age. I know some people, they are very picky about how they are, the number of people that know their age, right? So what I can do is I can say this is private. And what that means is, at this point, age is just going to be private to this class. You can only access it within this class. So we have a new instance of this, but we cannot longer access it because if you see, property age is now private and it's only accessible within the class user. Good. But I can have a method here that says get age. Let's say I want to, for some reason, give you the age, and I can say we can do some checks here and say if you are this, then you have access to get the age. Otherwise, if you don't, yada yada, you get what we are doing, right? Good. So we can say your age is this dot age. So notice I cannot access age from outside. I can only access it within the class. So if you see, it's private, it can only be accessed within the class, but I can actually call get age to get the age, right? Now you see that works. Okay, your age is 18. Good. Now, where are we going? We are almost there. We are almost there. We are almost done. We are almost done. We are almost done. Good. Another one we have is protected. Now you see, private and protected, they have just a slight similarity, and that would be when we start working with multiple classes. So if I call this protected, right, you see, same thing. I can also access it via the method get age, right? Just gonna zoom this out a bit. I can also access it via the method get age, but I cannot call age directly. It says age is protected. Now what? See something. It said property age is protected and only accessible within the class user as before for private and its subclasses. So what's that? What's that? What do we have? What do we mean by subclasses? What do we mean by subclasses? So that's one of the beauty of writing OOP. We can actually have another class that have more properties and we could extend from that, right? So that's what we mean by subclasses. We also have something we call read only. So I'm just going to tag that in. I could say this is a read only. What does that mean? That means for no reason I cannot change the value of first name. Okay, I cannot what? Change the value of first name. All right, so let's see what that means. So I can do, for example, I can do user1 dot last name. For some weird reason, I'm a guy. I don't know why my last name would change, but for a lady, maybe our last name should get married. Our last name could change to, let's say, Anthony. Good. And if I consider log user 1 now, let's see. See, it changes, right? But oh, I have to scroll back. But if I try to do that for first name, I can't do that because it's read only, right? So that's just one. Those are just, when I call them access modifiers. That's what they are called. I think I should call them view modifiers. So these are how you define restrictions on how you can access properties, how you can access methods. And you see these modifiers I've applied to these properties. You can also apply them to method. You can also apply them to, you can make a property, you can make any of this property. You can even make this private. What that means is that you'll not be able to call user.get age for within from outside the class, but you can actually call it within the class. So I can have another method that will reference this, get it? So let me not confuse us. Let's check what this protected is, and for that I'm just going to delete this. I'm just going to bring back that get age. I'm just going to say, just going to do this Kevin is dot age, yes, age, yes, old. We need to just get this off. Let's say I have another class. Let's say I have another class. Let's call this superhumans, super user. Or I'm just going to call this admin user. I don't know. I'm just trying to do a demo. Let's call this super user. And I'm going to extend everything from user. Okay. Now, what that means is every property and method will be inherited from user. Okay. Watch this. I just want to use this to explain the slight difference between private and protected. To get this working properly, I have to call, let's say, constructor, and I need to also pass in what the main class is expecting. Okay. All right. So that would be us defining read only first name. So first of all, let's see. Let's play with the error messages. So watch this. So see, the first thing it's saying is constructor for derived classes must contain a super call. So what that means is that you're just going to have to call super once you have that, and we are still not done. And so what that means is that we say we've extended this class user to create a super user. All the properties are there, but we need to feed in these values. Okay. Same thing. I'm just going to take this signature into this constructor because I want this. And let's say I want one more. So what do I want that makes me super? Let's say I'll be a super user if I'm a programmer, right? So let's say this programmer, and this will be of type boolean. Okay, good. Just gonna break this down a bit. Just gonna break this down a bit so you can see the difference. Okay, now what that means, I'm going to pass in every property that the class, the base class is expecting. Okay, so that will mean passing the first name, the last name, and then the age. Okay, and we are fine. So now I cannot create a new super user. All right, and this is fine. And now it says what? Super user expects this and an extra property which is called is programmer. And like I said, we have not instantiated it here, so I have to use one of those access modifiers, right? So I can say true, and this will be fine. So okay. So what that means is every other stuff I got from user, I can use it here. So let's say so I was trying to explain the difference between protected and private, right? So for private, for protected, I can actually access this dot age directly in this. Okay, so I'll just move this. I'll just move this, and I'll move it here. Make it public so you understand. But like I said, it's explicit. Now, if you see, I can access the age property from within it. But if I were to make it private, the only difference is nice. Now you see what's happening. It cannot make use of age because it is private there, right? So the difference is when it's private, you cannot access it from outside or even some of these subclasses or the derived classes, right? But when it is protected, you can actually access it from within subclasses, not from the outside world, right? And then one more thing is we can have optional properties. But if we do that, we would want to maybe initialize it to true. All right. So that's some of it, some of the EDI. Yeah, we need a program. So parameter, so you cannot have question mark. Yeah. So we can take this off now, and this is how we do that. So what that means, we can actually instantiate this class without passing in the programmer. So if we were to console.log this, we're just going to run through this. Yeah, you just need to get this. But this is not why we are here. This is not why we are here, but it's evident that we just have this. So yeah, we still have that. So you might just see me throwing in those private property, read only this, that. I don't just want us to have any issues. So we've cleared it out. And one last thing, we can have what we call getters and setters. So because we know, let's say, which is private, it's protected. Just gonna move overloading this now, but you get the gist, right? So I'm just gonna take this off. Let's go back to our base user class, and let's be more. Let's just be a bit. Let's just do one last thing. Let's cover getters and setters. Very simple. So let's go again. Let's say we have this private age equals to private age, and we make this, we instantiate this, right? And what are we going to do now? Let's just take this out of the constructor. Okay, no, I'm going to do this. So we can actually have like a get users age, and we just call it, and you expect that we return something. That's the way getters work. And we can also have the same name, can overload it. So there's no real function overloading in JavaScript. And then we can say this is going to be your age type number, and we cannot return from a set. Cannot return. It's going to complain. So what we do is we set. So we can say this dot age equals to 30 now. Definitely not me. So what we can do now is we can say user1 dot see, we have, I'm just going to make both of them same. So user age. So if I call this, I can directly access it. I don't need to call it, even if it looks like a function or it looks like a method. I don't need to call it. Is a getter, and I can do this. I can just call it console dot. Sometimes my typing is so poor, and I wonder what I'm typing. I type a lot. Oh, okay. Can I clear the logs? Yeah, I can clear the logs. Let's go back. So if I run this now, see, I can directly access the age property. With the setter, oh, sorry, I'm supposed to, that's why we have the setter. I'm supposed to use that. I can actually just do directly user1 dot user age, and then I can just assign it to a new value, let's say 55. Okay, and same thing if I call it log user1 dot user age, and yeah, 55. So that's some of the things we've covered. So what we've covered is we've covered how to create a blueprint for a class, specifies the shape. We've covered how what are properties, so the age, first name, those variables we have there, they are properties. We covered methods. Then we covered some of the access modifiers. We have by default, if you do not specify, then they are public. Those are the key takeaways. If you say it's read-only, what that means is that you cannot change it. You cannot change the value. If you say it's private, you cannot only access it within the class, right? You cannot access it from outside the class. Maybe you instantiated an object from it, or from subclasses, a class that is extending it. If you say it's protected, similar to private, but you can access it from other class that extend it, but not from outside the class. And you can batch some of them. So we can say this is public, read only first name. So what that means is that it's going to be public, but you cannot change it. We talked about getters and setters. What does getters and setters do? For getters, you must return something. If we over it, it says this is going to be of type getter, and it's going to return a number. Setter is going to be of type setter, and then it's going to actually not return a number. It's going to help you set the number, right? Cool. So those are some of the things we've covered quickly. Now we'll talk about the constructor. So this is the fetch function that will be run when you instantiate your class. Usually we use that to load up the class and pass in properties, instantiate the properties in that class. We use it a lot for dependency injection to bring in the services that we want to have in that class. Beautiful. Great. So with that, my conscience is free, and we can jump into the beautiful world of NestJS. Cool.